So
before Adidas.
Okay. So I had a 10-year agency before Adidas, and I worked with people like Carhartt and very early Vice, lots and lots of sneakers, Garb Store, I launched Jacket Required. So quite a lot of different experiences mean that I'm able to oversee quite a few.
Yeah, so you've worked agency side and you've worked brand
in-house
side. We are back for the Sole Supplier podcast, episode 12, with myself, George, from the Sole Supplier, Alex Vas, and today we have Leila Fataar, who is the owner of Platform 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it.
You did? I was just checking in case.
Yeah. Tell us, Leila, because you're going to explain this the best, right?
What, Platform 13?
Platform 13, or who you are, what it is, why you started it.
So I founded it because of a frustration, actually. Because I was frustrated with how brands and agencies worked. I was frustrated at the mediocrity of stuff. I was frustrated at how the world is working when everyone's starting to work remotely, everyone's starting to work freelance, and yet it felt like you needed to have a company that had to have 25,000 people working there, when actually you can just choose the best to work on projects and curate the teams accordingly.
Yeah. Sounds like you got high standards.
I've got extremely high standards. As most of the people who I've ever worked with know, I'm quite demanding on what needs to happen. So.
Okay, so your high standards are what basically set the bar at Platform 13. So does this create a bit of fear with people that work for you?
I hope it's not fear. I hope it's inspiration, but I guess you'd have to ask them.
But what is it you're doing differently? Because as we know, like this industry, there's a lot of PRs. There's a lot of annoying PRs. Okay? Sorry if you're one of them. You probably don't know it. Not you, Alex, obviously.
Cheers, mate.
But yeah, those PRs, and I know what you mean. They have that sort of same bland approach to things. So what is it that Platform 13 are doing differently?
So we, as I said, we take on projects that we believe in, first of all. So because we don't have this huge business with massive overheads and huge amounts of people in it and a big building in the middle of central London, we're very choiceful about what we work on. Once we get a project on board, they know that they will come in and we will have a very sort of honest conversation about what needs to happen. So we don't get a brief like a content brief or a PR brief. We get a challenge. I'm like, give me your hardest thing that needs to happen. From that, we create the brief or kind of what it is we're trying to do for the brand. And then we build the team according to that brief and what needs to come out. So we only ever work with the best of the best for that particular brand, for that particular industry, for that particular community. They come on board and they work with us. So you don't...
Essentially, you don't have many people that work for you, do you? It's quite a small team.
Yeah, it's a small team.
And you kind of pick from the freelancers out there.
Yes.
So I know this because I actually worked alongside some of the guys for that platform that you hired from Platform 13 on the Adidas Colorado.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we was in Milan when we were shooting that.
Yes, Sonomi.
Yes. So I've kind of seen the inner workings of how like a team is selected. It was literally 2 guys.
Yeah.
And but it's
so
all they needed.
Build a team after you have the idea. So rather than fit the idea into the team that you've got, which is traditional, you're like, right, this is the team that it needs.
For this idea to be original and interesting and connected to whatever community and culture it's trying to be part of and represent.
So and they won't be people that you work with all the time. You might have 2 or 3 people in that team that you only work with once a month.
Yep. Then others who are there for 3 months. Yeah. And then others that are there for once a year, depending on their skill set.
Yeah. And
depending on what we're trying to do, because the projects are all different. So we don't have the same projects coming on over and over again. So we can do anything from a launch event to a content series to to PR or to social or to all of it together, which is the ideal situation.
Yeah.
And we build a team according to that.
People probably wondering how. That's all right.
Amateur hour over here.
People probably wondering how you wear all of those hats, because people here in this watching this podcast want to start their own business. There's a lot of them. How do you wear all those hats, or what's your process for managing that so many different creatives?
So I'm old, basically. That's where it comes from.
I won't go that far.
It's called experience. I'm 45.
Okay, congrats.
Yeah,
Really?
Well done.
So
well done to you.
Yeah.
So lots
live healthy?
What is your skincare routine?
So lots,
Let the people at home know.
Lots. My grandmother.
Oh,
Lots
okay.
and lots of experience. So before I had Platform 13.
Was it
I
Platform
worked-
12 before? Sorry.
Mine and three
Very
quarters.
nice. Very nice.
Sorry.
Platform 13. I always worked at Diageo, which is another huge drinks brand.
Okay.
I was the head of culture and entertainment. Before that, I was at Adidas as the global PR social content director for Originals. And before that, I had a 10-year agency.
Nice.
So
Before Adidas.
before Adidas.
Okay.
So I had a 10-year agency before Adidas, and I worked with people like Carhartt and very early Vice, lots and lots of sneakers, Garb Store, I launched Jacket Required. So quite a lot of different experiences mean that I'm able to oversee quite a few.
Yeah,
quite
so
a
you've
lot of
worked
different
agency side and you've worked brand
in-house
side.
and yeah.
You've seen what it takes.
I've seen what it takes. I've been around the block a few times, rather.
Yeah, that's so essential, though, isn't it?
It is, and it really helps to be able to curate the team.
Yeah.
Because I really do understand what's needed in these different sectors, and I do understand how the whole thing comes together to make sure that it doesn't feel separated from anything else the brand is doing, which is really important. Amateur hour, sorry.
I say we're all doing it. George will be next, don't
Yeah.
worry. I suppose.
Put it off, George. Put it off. Yeah.
I suppose the benefit of you kind of not having a big team is, like you said, it's not fitting the job into people's abilities, right? So, you know, the key to managing a team, right, is picking out people's strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
So you're only going to use the people that you know are going to be at their strongest.
Exactly.
But yeah, and
Exactly.
I suppose there's a lot to learn from that in business in general, isn't there?
I mean, that's the thing. The problem is and it is tough, right, on both sides. If you have, and I had an agency for 10 years, so I understand the challenges of having, a load of staff, all on the payroll, brilliant. But then you almost have to always take on work. And you always at the behest of maybe saying yes to a client that you may not want to say yes to, or do a job you may not, or needs to be sort of dumbed down, because you've got to pay people's salaries. They depend on you. And I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing. It just means that sometimes you can't be selective and choiceful about what you're doing. Because you just have to keep on retaining that in, exactly.
We have the same thing going on here.
Sure.
So we started organically. We built our revenue stream through our own content, our own, that we wanted to push because it was relevant to people. Yeah. And that's the best way for us. Now we've got the opportunity to do brand partnerships. We still got that income from the organic content. And we don't have to say yes to every brand partnership.
But then so you can be choiceful.
We can be choiceful and still be authentic.
That's it.
Because we have said exactly like you said to brands, this shoe's not going to resonate with our audience.
Exactly.
Like, are you sure there's nothing you can do? I'm like, well, we could.
Change the shoe.
But, we have said, these would work in your range. Yeah. And it's nice to be honest like that, because you can go home feeling a bit more satisfied that you've been...
And it's transparency as well, isn't it?
It's transparency. At the end of the day, if to your point, if it doesn't resonate with your audience, that just means you're not doing a good enough job and you're not being respectful to your audience. And that's something you have to continue being. I've got to be respectful to the thing that I've built, or else what's the point?
It's got to be the right fit for you as much as it is the right fit for them.
Absolutely. It's got to be mutual benefit.
That's the key.
Mutual benefit. It doesn't work otherwise.
I think that's in some ways how people should approach work in general, though. Like at interviews, I always find that people go to job interviews and they just kind of sell themselves, but they never ever flip it and go, well, why should I work for you?
I was just having a funny image in my head of the interviewee being
because you two look like it. Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey man, no, do you know what now? That's not right.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out of here. See you later.
That would be good though.
No, but I've always said to people, I was like, listen, you need to make sure that we, or as if I'm the company, are going to be the right fit for you as much as you're going to be the right fit for us.
That's true.
There's going to be so many different implications and areas of the business that you're probably not going to fit with how you think or how you want to operate, or even from like a social aspect. So it's always got to be like fully transparent, and the balance has got to be there, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, I actually said the same to someone, a videographer here, that we want to get on board with us. He said, I got some other interviews. One's with an agency. One's with a production company. And I said, well, it's really about what you want, because these are three very different things. Sure. So you need to decide, because I don't want you to work here and then in 6 months leave. Exactly. So make your decision, and I'm happy with whatever you do, but I do really want you to work with us.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. We should all work together.
Platform 14.
Yeah. Platform 13 and a half.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
We're not the only ones that have made that joke, really. Hopefully. Please.
So
why platform 13?
So it's funny.
Yeah.
It's super personal to me. 13 is my lucky number.
Okay.
Which is quite weird because it's quite an unlucky number for a lot of people.
So it's definitely my lucky number. And the word platform actually came from the fact that the world is so obsessed with social media, and these are core platforms.
You're gonna touch on what I was doing.
So I'm very much about actually in the real world, there are also platforms. Mm-hmm. We can do this in the real world too, because I have a big issue with influencers, as we know today. So for me, it's very much about how do we connect people together in the real world, online, wherever. It's still one platform. So platform 13, that's what it is.
You're very vocal about this as well, aren't you?
Very.
Are you?
Yeah. So you speak at quite a lot of events and you do a lot of interviews and it's, I think it's weird for the industry because the industry is always going so far to like, we use influencers.
Pro-influencer.
Yeah, and you're not so much like against influencers, but it's a case of like you're showing the other side of the coin.
And that's it. And I feel like people need to make a decision with both sides. That's all. Yeah. So for me, I will challenge anything that kind of feels non-authentic.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are people, and I've been in sneakers for a long, long time before social media. That's old.
OG before IG.
Exactly.
I like that. That's good.
And so we always worked with influential people. And for me, there's a really big difference between influencer, social media influencer, who's just, has a huge amount of fans and followers, and people who are influential and really are changing the game.
Can I just intervene? It's so crazy to think that you have so much experience in this industry, and so does Wex.
And that you both said the same thing.
And you've literally just carbon copy of what each other have said.
Yeah. And we didn't plan that.
Yeah,
no,
unless you watched his.
No, we didn't plan that.
And I think that just goes to show that the longevity that you've had within this industry, you've kind of seen it come and go. Yeah. So the people that are kind of newer to it, and that, especially with social media being what it is, it's kind of very much like, influencer. Where I think the authenticity just, I'm dribbling everywhere again. That's the second episode I've done that.
Nice.
I think the authenticity just gets lost.
I feel like also, I think really these social media influencers, they need to sort of think about what they're going to do when the platform changes the algorithm. Yeah. They don't own that stuff. They don't own those followers and fans. The platform does. And they could change the algorithm tomorrow and it'll all be gone. And then what will they do? So for me, I'm just like, and then what will the brands do? Because the brands go, oh my God, so many people. I'm like, that can go. And,
it's scary, isn't it?
And then where is your brand?
Yeah.
Well, it should be. They just need to go, if we do that, that can only be part of what we do. And we should call that advertising.
That's right.
Do not call it influence. Call it advertising. Yeah. And then we're good.
What else do I do apart from that?
Absolutely. What do I sort of, how do I add value to my community?
How well is this kind of received when you talk so openly at events and stuff? And because I know you've done quite a few panel talks with it. Yeah. How is it received by the audience? Do you ever get challenged by your panel?
I get challenged by people who have influencer in their title or in their job title.
So you cause some rifts sometimes?
Make some waves.
Make some waves.
I don't know if it's that. I just want people to understand the other side.
Have you seen this thing on...
And they make the decisions.
You're on LinkedIn, right? I've seen... that's where we initially spoke as well. There was something today that Steve Bartlett put up, which was... Did you see? Mm-hmm. About a girl that had 2 million...
And 30... She couldn't sell 36...
Couldn't sell 36 products that she launched. Now, there's a few things. The product could be bad. No one wanted to buy it. But out of 2 million, no one wanted to buy it. People now consume like they're consumers. They want shit
all the time.
Yeah. So was it that bad?
Yeah.
Was she that bad, or did she have fake followers, fake likes, fake?
You can always tell.
I mean, it's a pit basically. Yeah. It's a spiraling pit of fake followers,
fake likes, fake comments,
etc., etc. Yeah. It's a minefield basically. Yeah. It's a minefield.
There's so much of it in this industry though. There's many.
It's got to be every industry, right?
There's many people in this industry. Now, I'm not going to name names, but there's people in this industry that you see with very stagnant numbers on Instagram, and their followings don't go up. They don't tend to go down, but their like ratio, isn't it meant to be something like 3% or like 5% of your like should equate to how many followers you've got. And you see it a lot. Like someone might have 15,000 followers, but have 1,000 likes.
Okay,
And
that's
then also-
interesting.
but
Or,
it's-
or not
That-
even,
that sounds
not
about
even
right,
1,000 likes.
But also,
That's the mathlete coming.
but also, people are just also changing how they use social media, right?
Of course.
I mean,
It has to be something that's going to catch your eye.
It's
It just
gotta
can't
be
be the
some-
same dross
exactly.
that you see on the
all
timeline.
the time. If I see another sneaker shoe reflected in a puddle, I'm going to kill myself. Like literally, bit of originality at
Yeah,
least. You know
people
what I mean?
need to show more about themselves.
Yeah,
So
the-
okay, you take shoe pictures.
Yeah.
What do you do in your spare time? Talk to the
Exactly.
camera and tell me.
Exactly.
I suppose in their defense, though, for example, you mentioned about like the shoe puddle picture. There might be people that see that and then be like, do you know what? That is really cool. I'd love to be able to replicate that.
Yeah.
It's an
So
ex-
I get that.
it's
but
only an example of lack of originality.
yeah.
I don't mind. Do it in another type of thing, but just
Another type of puddle.
whatever. But the point is,
deeper one.
the point is, after a while, it starts to just look like wallpaper, all of it. And you don't know, brands just interchangeable with each other. You know what I mean? Not saying that brands do that, but it's like if everyone starts creating the same kind of content, I don't know, it just becomes a bit generic.
How
no?
many brands have come to you recently and said we want influencers as part of the campaign?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
I say to them, I try and explain to them what my
So-
point of view is.
I love how it's like, I tried to explain it to them.
I try to explain to them my point of view. A lot of the time they actually get it.
Yeah.
And when I
What it's dangerous, the probability of it not
Yeah.
going.
Or-
We can't control it as much as we want.
or the role of it is for me more about paid advertising.
Yeah.
Right? So they need to treat it this way. If they want to work with cultural voices, people who are influential, who actually have earned their stripes to be influential, whatever that might be, then we're quite happy to work with them because we actually work with them. We don't ever just land product. We try and work with them to create something new. So I feel like it really depends also on whether it's a bigger campaign, of which there's many, many different parts. But generally, I tend to sort of try and steer clients away from the influences they think is what they want. Actually, they want people who are influential a lot of the time, I find, once you've sat down and explained that.
Okay, let me throw a scenario at you. So you go to a brand comes to you rather, and they have this kind of, challenge, if you like. They say, we want to do this, 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 and this, and they give you all of that. And then you go, right, I'm challenging you back. Like, I don't think you should be using influencers. I think we should use it a different way. And they go, yeah, great. Okay, that's fine. But then they go to their PR company and do exactly what you've said no to.
I mean, they can do whatever they want to, unless they've given us the ability to veto that, which happens sometimes. Because for me, it's kind of like you can't have these things in separation, right? They, if you're going to do a campaign, if you want to really, really answer a challenge well, it has to be across the board, or else rogue something here is not going to help the brand. So either they want to do it or they don't. If they don't want to do it, we're good. If they do want to do it, we can change something.
What are some of your clients that you're working with currently?
So we work with a variety of clients. Now I've expanded outside of just sneakers. I was in that for a long time.
It's a good starting point.
It's not a bad starting point. So we work with, still work with Adidas. We're doing some stuff for Vans. New project coming up. We're working for Land Rover and their new innovation car rental service, which is great. We're working for, we've done stuff with O2, we've done stuff with MTV, etc., etc.
Yeah,
Check out my website.
Some pretty big names.
Some really awesome names because it's about this new way of working. People and brands, they want to try it. They need to answer their challenges and they need to find new ways of doing it. So we're just exploring that at the moment.
So what's your biggest success since starting Platform 13? It's a typical interview question, but there's been some big names there.
It's the longevity of it, isn't it? The fact it's still, business is booming.
Well, for me, it was, thanks, Alex.
Thanks.
Sorry.
My PR.
Yeah, sorry. This is an interview, right?
No. I think there's a little bit of truth in that. Like, it was more vision, of like, okay, I'm frustrated about this. How can I make it different? Using my experience of my own agency, being in-house, really understanding the challenges of both brands, agencies, partners, and going, I'm going to try and do something completely different. So we don't even call ourselves an agency. We are not an agency. We're not a consultancy. We're a company.
When I started on the story earlier, I spoke about you. I said, Leila started a platform called Platform 13.
Nice.
And I said that of my own accord, just off the top of the dome.
Yeah. So again, even with that, just really trying to go, do not put us in this box. What we're trying to do is try something new and different. A new way of working where we have so much talent out there who never ever gets seen by the agencies and the consultancies because they're all in-house.
Yeah.
So all this incredible talent.
15,000 followers.
Yeah. So all this incredible talent out there, and these are people who are trying new things out there, be it in consumer behavior, lifestyle, and also creatives. The young creators are the ones who are experimenting on social. They know all about the new features. They know how to do this. Those are the people we work with. Those are absolutely the people we work with. And I find and have found that when I was in-house with a big brand, we could never access these people. I was quite hardcore about that, both at Adidas and Diageo. And I was like, I'm going to work with my network. So
you couldn't access the young people that are socially savvy.
Generally, in big businesses, they have a roster of agencies.
Yeah. And the agencies have a roster of...
No, they have a roster of agencies, and those are the only people that big brands can work with, like procurement.
Okay.
I was very clear that I wanted to work with my network because I had a 10-year agency. So I had better relationships with people. And so I worked always with my network. In the same way that I work today with Platform 13, I worked in-house. And that was quite difficult and different in-house as well. And that was really helpful to sort of set up how this potentially could work. But, it took a lot of internal navigation to be able to do that because generally you have to work with the agencies that are rostered. And that's hard to get onto.
Yeah, that's tricky. So roster. The biggest success in that case was starting Platform 13, which was then accepted by these big names that have their typical roster.
Yeah. And still coming to us.
Yeah.
Coming to us.
That was you though,
and
right? That's your relationship as well, right?
These are brands who saw the work we've done. Yeah. These are brands that heard me on a platform ranting about something. These are people who, read about what we were trying to do in amazing publications like Campaign and Digiday and stuff. Yeah. So I was just really lucky that this was just an interesting time. I came out with a very strong statement, which was rest in peace influencer marketing.
Yeah, I remember it.
That was the first statement that we made.
Yeah.
Which, caused a few people to ask us a few questions.
And that was influential.
Well, I mean,
to use the word. It sounds like everything you just said, Digiday, speaking, making a statement.
Came from that.
You're influencing in your own way.
Well... Yeah. I mean,
I like to spin it there.
Just trying to do my job.
She's like,
it's raising the bar for what brands are doing, though, isn't it? And it's like you said earlier, it's also making brands more culturally aware.
Yeah,
of how they operate in the industry.
Because you see it over and over again. Big brands doing things, campaigns or activations or whatever it might be, and sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you're like, wow, that did not represent the community you're trying to represent in this thing you're doing. Because a lot of the time, they're not actually working with the community. They're working with a creative director who's got nothing to do with the community to come up with something that looks amazing.
A lot of the people that make the decisions are not always most intact with the audience they're selling
that they're
to.
trying to be part. Exactly. So working instead with that community means that you can add value. You can add positive impact and value, and that's awesome.
Is there anywhere that you haven't managed to make it work for a client so far where you thought, oh shit, yeah, I'm just throwing them out there.
The problem is that, and this is where it sometimes falls down. It depends on who the client is. So client brand, it's the person in there, right? There's someone who gets it and really wants it to work, because the one way that campaigns work in-house is that it gets sold in-house. So suddenly the whole company is talking about that one project, and that becomes a buzz internally. I didn't know that until I worked inside at how that internal communication drives what happens outside.
Well, so someone would speak to someone like yourself, that you would create the brief,
and
then they would go and tell the rest of the company.
Yeah, but that person needs to be able to sell. They're influential
but if
internally.
They're a shit communicator, what the hell happens?
Then it's hard, because they also have to translate what you're doing, which is new, to a very traditional company. And if they cannot translate that well, it may not look successful internally, even if it's successful to the consumer.
That's so frustrating, isn't it? It's like you need a speaker's room.
You do.
You go there, and this is everyone that's going to hear about this. Get them in this room.
And it's like we said about the other day, about people not liking change. So, like, you know, the reason someone, for example, you don't go in and do that and sell it to the internal team is because someone new comes in from out of nowhere. And now they're telling us how we're going to do stuff. People don't like that change, and they fear it. They're like, well, why should we do it this way?
And also, big businesses are successful because they are process-driven. And process-driven means that, which is very different to creative and very different to cultural. That's why they're big businesses, because they work by process. As soon as you go outside of that process and you can't measure it in the way that they understand, it may not seem to be successful, even though it's smashing it out there with the people they're supposed to be talking to. It's the internal conversation. It's really interesting. It's fascinating, actually. None of this I knew before winning the house. I was like, wow, this is interesting.
So obviously you was at Adidas previously. Yeah. What are some of the campaigns that you worked on that our kind of audience might be a bit more familiar with?
I think probably my most famous one was the re-release of Stan Smith. Nice. That was pretty cool, and
that was when people were able to get their kind of like
the faces.
So I mentioned this before. Yeah.
So and that was awesome, because actually that was like 2 weeks into the job. Just moved to Germany.
So what year was this roughly?
2012.
Yeah. 2012,
which was after it was the Olympic year. Yeah, Olympic year. So we went in and.
So you were in Herzog.
In Herzog,
yeah, nice.
And
so you moved there to work with Adidas.
Yeah.
But you were in London before.
I was in London with Spin, my 10-year agency.
Yeah.
I was so exhausted and knackered after running that 10-year agency.
Yeah. You wanted to work for someone else.
I was like, because I've never worked in-house. I never worked in a big structure. I kind of like created my own thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, which was great, but it was exhausting because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have any support.
And those sort of skills with businesses and processes.
Yeah. So creating my own processes, blah, 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 etc. within Spin, and that was brilliant. And closed it down, and then was headhunted.
Okay.
Which was great. Nice. And then went over to Germany.
Was you headhunted by George? Because he used to be a recruitment agent. You know what I mean? So
I used to recruit in the NHS.
Did you?
It wasn't that glamorous.
It wasn't different.
All right. Yeah.
And it was funny. I must have been like 2 weeks in, and they literally threw me into the room and like, "This is your project," and I was like, so excited.
Straight into Stan Smith.
That was my first project. So
nice.
I was like,
That's
I was super excited,
isn't it?
But it wasn't internally.
Okay.
But
the success of it meant that it was.
So you're saying that the shoe internally doesn't mean as much
to
Adidas as it does to the consumer? No. Is that what you're saying?
Alex, no.
Such a news reporter. It's like Piers Morgan.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying at the time, at the time, it was, how do we get this icon back to relevance? Because at the time, it was in the sale buckets and it was under the radar. But having worked in sneakers and for a long, long time, I also knew that was the one shoe that was the leveler for everyone, right? No matter if you were affiliated to any brand, that was the leveler shoe. It was also, timings-wise, was amazing because it was just out of the Olympics, which was all like neon and faster, blah, blah. And I was like, the white court shoe. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a simple, elegant silhouette, and it works.
It works. And that was a great, great project. But I had to make a few challenges internally, but everyone was super supportive, and we ended up with a great launch. Other projects.
Did ZX Flux as well?
I launched ZX Flux.
That blew up, didn't it?
That was mental.
So you were at the start of the ZX Flux.
So they basically came to me and went and put this on my desk, the shoe, in October.
I mean, I still see them around now. I'm like, there it is.
There it is.
That doesn't leave my memory.
Yeah, I know. It was amazing. So they
put
the
was
shoe.
Like huge when I was in like secondary school, sixth form.
No, man.
Young people.
Yeah, man.
No.
No, actually, no, you're right. Probably I was about 19, 20 when...
Yeah.
ZX Flux was awesome because actually it was one of the first completely new silhouettes.
Yeah.
Because we'd always done archival stuff.
Yeah.
Put the shoe on my desk in October. We want it launched by January. Completely new shoe.
Wow.
So, and that was over Christmas.
That for a brand, that's a very, very quick turnaround.
That was a really, really quick turnaround.
A big brand that's process driven like Adidas or Nike who plan a year and a half in
more
advance.
than a year
2
in
years.
advance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great because we were able to really sort of explode it quickly. But of course, we didn't realize how big it would be, which was great. So that was another brilliant project.
What was your title at Adidas then?
Global PR Social Content Director.
Okay, and it was that.
Why is everyone at Adidas got such long mouthfuls of
Global.
titles? Everything is stick global in front of it.
Yeah, if you got the global extension, you know you're.
Global podcast.
You know you're in Herzo.
Yeah, you know you're there. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah.
And that was brilliant, actually. Amazing and really fun to work on, except it was over Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
And I was in Sydney.
Really?
But working on the beach. It wasn't a bad thing.
Oh, so it's not that bad then, is it? I mean,
She
so
threw
it's not
that
like
in
you're in like, some dungeon, oh god, in Germany going, oh god, this is terrible.
How am I going to get this out?
Why were you in Sydney? You were on holiday?
My mother lives there.
Okay,
so I
nice.
went to go visit the family.
Cocktail in hand on that Bondi Beach, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
Just planning the biggest campaign.
Oh, sorry, out of office today.
Yeah.
Just getting a tan.
And that was great, but we didn't have the samples. So we had to create content that was rendered. I mean, I can't tell you. It was, but I love a challenge, yeah.
Mad.
So I'm just
Not
like,
ideal.
bring
This is mad.
it on.
What? So you did that? What? So you created content.
We created
you
content.
didn't have a sample.
But we didn't have. We had one sample, but we had which was the thing they put on our desk. But to create the content, the sampling timings and us needing to create the content just did not match.
But how does something get so last minute? How does that happen? How do they go? This is the shoe.
It wasn't last minute. It was a shoe that was in development, but I think there was like, let's get this out. And I think there was a bit around, can we do it quicker? Yeah. And I think that's great for a big company to be able to go, can we do this quicker?
But I suppose the risk paid off, didn't it?
Yeah,
you said the shoe is huge.
Yeah,
what was the price of it again? It was like 80.
ZX Flux was that?
80.
I think about 80 quid.
Yeah.
About £80. Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, it's a good price point compared to what shoes are now.
The others,
Ultra Boost 150.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You did some Palace stuff as well?
Did the Palace launch.
Yeah.
The first 2 seasons, I think.
Adi Pali.
Yeah. And it was great working with Gareth and Lev. I knew them from before, so it was really nice to do that. Nigo, Superstar. We did EQT. And
so best just basically all the big campaigns.
Was it the Pharrell Superstar you did?
The
multicolour one?
So we did. So that was
a popper.
We did the.
I have 4 of them.
Did
really?
you?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't have the
New
50.
York, London,
Say there was 50
Berlin.
colours, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the super color.
I'm talking about the super colour one.
I'm talking about the Superstar City Pack.
Yeah. So we did the launch of
the
Superstar, of which these others would come out of.
Hold on. The Superstar City Pack wasn't Pharrell, was it? The super colour was, yeah.
Yeah, the super colour was
the
Pharrell.
super colour with the circle. With
yeah,
shoes,
yeah.
But the Superstar City Pack, that was just on its own, wasn't it? That was where that was like the resurgence of the Superstar.
Yeah, it was a separate project.
Yeah, it was a separate project.
So that was my last project.
Yeah.
Was the launch of Superstar, the initial launch before.
Yeah, it was great. That was so popular as well.
Yeah.
That was so. Yeah, I bought a lot of them.
Yeah, they're great shoes, and there's great stories to tell, and that's something I guess is.
Pharrell rinsed it though, didn't he? Like with her whole of Adidas. Like Pharrell.
Still going, man. It's still going.
Pharrell, you're rinsing it. All right. Okay, just slow down. All right, where's the scarcity, bro?
Do you remember how rare the first human races were?
I mean, I just sold.
Oh my
all right, listen
God.
to this. I sold my Pharrell human race size 10.
Was it resold?
I resold,
Wow.
on Depop.
You resold what size?
Size 10.
Wow, so you went and bought a size that's not even yours. So you looked at the size that you thought might make the most money. I thought, oh, do you know what?
Strategic.
Yeah,
when
man. You were like 6.5, 7's not going to make much, so I'm going to go for a 10.
When I managed, I have a size 7. They were also on my Depop, busted.
Okay.
And I got a size 10. I actually got 2 size 10s. Someone had them here. Jeez. This is when they came out 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I sold them. Bearing in mind, like, I'm not saying, look, who am I? I run the Sole Supplier. I've done for 5 years. It's on my Depop. It's on my Instagram. Yeah. Guy buys them for £600. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
He takes them to Flight Club in the US, and he's like, they tell him they're fake. Flight Club told him they're fake. They came from adidas.co.uk.
Are you serious?
I was like, man, because my girlfriend helps me with the Depop. She's like, this guy's saying they're fake. Are they fake? I was like, of course they're not. Why are you even asking me? Of course they're not. And we had to tell him. I
think your girlfriend's got trust issues, mate.
Yeah, do you know?
You know.
Yeah. Taz, if you're watching, we'll sort it out. But yeah, I said, look, just tell him what I do and who I am and run the business.
Yeah.
And I was
Tell him
like,
I'm George from the
no,
Sole
but
Supplier,
I'm not trying to say it like that. I'm just trying to say, like, why would I be selling you a fake?
Sure.
You should
My
have said
reputation is...
Yeah.
You should have sent him a voice note back saying, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah. Do you know who I am? That's a good one.
Google me, mate.
No,
Google
but
me.
I'm not, you know, you just sometimes have to go, look, it's maybe like yourself would say in a campaign, it's like people go like, someone that doesn't know what you've done or your history might question something and just be like, hey, look, I have worked on this, I have done this, and I have done this. Oh, by the way, I run my own agency for 10 years.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah, so pipe down.
So,
Okay.
Did you
who
say
was that
any of
Depop
that?
user?
you didn't. You just left him to think it was fake.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I told him. I
He
told
knows.
him.
He just replied, "No, they're legit, bro."
Exactly.
No, I did say, I said, look, this is what I do, this is the business, and they're real. I bought them here. I'll try and find the receipt
See.
from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't know who he was anyway.
All right, let's leave it there.
Sorry, man.
Yeah. But yeah, people are quite flippant now, aren't they?
They are. What do you
Yeah.
think of resell? Resell.
I don't really mind. I think it's made the industry grow as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've discussed this before, it's brought up a lot of good general releases.
Yeah.
From stuff that's high value, like an Air Force One.
Mm.
The resurgence of Air Force One is probably due to collabs with Comme des Garçons, Supreme, Off-White, and now everyone wants a normal Air Force One.
Yeah.
It's had a lot of good effects.
I've always really loved general release stuff.
Yeah.
I've always really worn that.
Same.
Always. And I yeah.
General. Oh no, they're not. They're not. They're not.
I mean, those are pretty fancy. They got zips and everything.
know,
I mean,
yeah.
literally.
But this is a bit of a connoisseur shoe, though, isn't it?
Yeah, these are the new Balance, right? The new
No,
Balance.
they're the V4s, aren't they?
Yeah.
The ones that just came out.
No, the one that came out of V5. I think that's that 990 V4.
So
That one.
yeah.
Should know more about my New Balance.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a connoisseur shoe. Like it's not
Yeah.
for everyone. I know it quite often gets put down as a bit of a dad shoe, but they're banging.
No, it's
New
a bit
Balance
of a
990,
I love 'em.
yeah,
incredible.
it's nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty easy to wear as well.
See,
Yeah, I
so
like that
many-
colour.
Great colorway.
So many of them with
It
ships
is.
on the tube, man.
Sophisticated in the industry.
Just saying.
So
Colourway.
many of them on the tube.
Colorway.
Colourway.
Colorway. Sorry.
Colorway.
Colours.
Colorway. Yeah. Colorway's always been a strange word, hasn't
Has
it?
it?
Do you not think?
Do people
colourway-
say it?
No,
Yeah,
I think
people
what's
say
more
it.
strange is the actual names of the colorways that we get.
Oh, yes.
Like Orbit Green
Yeah.
or something like that. or
But it's
Menage a Trois Bleu or
it's-
something like that. I mean, something ridiculous.
yeah, it's Nike mainly.
It's how to describe things so that it sounds really special.
Is it like the blue in Adidas is Firebird Blue, right?
I don't know if it's called Firebird Blue.
I'm sure it's called. Someone fact check me. But I think it's called Firebird. I don't care how many years experience is Adidas. I'm sure it's called Firebird.
Leila, you know about writing good copy, right? And do you know why I say this?
Why?
Because the copy in your about section on your website is unbelievable. Yeah?
Can you
It
read
is-
any of it off for us?
It is so elegant the way
Is
it's written.
it?
Yeah, and there was that line that Cash, shout out Cash, he was
Shout out
loving as
Cash.
well. And he had to tell me quite what it meant, and I felt like a real noob. A noob.
What was it?
Yeah. It said we take the we bring the URL into the IRL,
Yeah.
which is we
And
bring
the-
the
it's-
web into reality, into real life.
It's actually we live at the intersection of URL and IRL.
That's it.
Jeez.
I mean, we all do.
Yeah.
None of this
Yeah, I
you
liked
do.
it.
You
Yeah.
do. You do too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's where we all play
Yeah.
and live at the moment.
No, the
We
copy
live
was great.
in
It was
harm.
really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I
What
liked
is
it.
your favourite shoe of all time?
Oh man, you are putting me on the spot a little bit.
That's why I asked it.
My favorite shoe of all time.
Yeah, we
It's
had
got-
to have some season
Okay,
questions.
okay.
Yeah.
It's got to be the Reebok workout.
Okay.
Telling you.
There
Well,
we
it's
go.
not one nudge, you know.
Yeah.
Do you
All
want
right.
We can do two nudges. Let's go. Okay, wait. We can do this one.
Don't,
He's
don't
trying to
leave
look
her hanging, bro.
Yeah.
The
leave me
triangle
hanging.
fist bump, yeah? There's a lot of fist bumping going on right now.
I mean, yeah.
What is it about the Reebok workout?
I mean, I love a white sneaker. Hey.
I love a white sneaker.
I love a full
I
white
love
sneaker.
'em, man. That's got 9 of 'em.
Yeah. Yeah.
He loves
I
a
don't know.
University Red Air Max 1.
Yeah, not today, though.
University red.
Yeah.
Nice description.
Royal blue today.
Royal
though.
blue. All right.
Very
Royal
good, very
blue.
good.
Still keeping it OG though.
Still
But-
keeping it OG.
Great shoe though. Workout.
Yeah.
I'm more of a fan of the Exofit
You are.
personally.
Yeah.
I wear it all the time.
Yeah.
Reebok workout's quite a rude shoe, you know. It's quite a
I don't know.
I'm out here.
I
in
feel it. I feel
I
it.
feel-
Yeah.
Feel it. You're originally from South Africa.
I
right?
am from South Africa, and we didn't even have sneakers and opportunity. We used to call them tackies.
Sneakers and opportunity.
We didn't.
Two very different things.
Not that much different. Not that much different.
You did say we didn't have sneakers and opportunity.
But I'm old, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
So I come from apartheid South Africa.
Okay.
So we really didn't have sneakers and opportunity.
Got you, yeah.
Okay. But we used to have...
So what would you wear on your feet?
So we used to have these things called tackies. And
Okay.
they, I think now, are like... I guess I can't even remember, it's so long ago, but I feel like they were more like the Vans plimsolls, but without branding on them. And then we also had Jack Purcell. Jack Purcell, where I'm from, was really, really popular.
Cash?
That's what I remember mostly from that.
Converse, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Converse Jack Purcell.
But I think it was Jack Purcell
Jack
before,
Purcell.
before
Jack
it was
Purcell.
Converse. Jack Purcell.
You said it quite fast.
Did I?
Yeah.
I think it was before Converse, though. This
Yeah.
was back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been in London like over 20 years, though. So things have changed in South Africa.
Yeah, these
for the
are-
best.
yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
for the good.
I used to wear plimsolls at school, so I was cool.
Standard.
Yeah, standard plimsolls. Go for a few pairs.
I used to wear Astros.
Astros.
Astro to football boots, man. Tracksuit bottoms. That was me every day.
But kids wouldn't wear that. Like now, there's so much
Now.
pressure. It's
Oh,
like,
I wouldn't have
plimsoll-
survived. I wouldn't have
do you know what I
survived in this
mean?
world. No.
Like, you know, like if you had a pair of kickers, you know, at school, that was like
Pretty
legit
elite.
status.
You're
and then
elite.
like, yeah, and then like, but plimsolls were standard.
Yeah. Super easy. But that's what we
Yeah.
wore. And it was, but we knew about the big brands.
Yeah.
Obviously, because where I'm from, it was very much influenced by American black culture, so basketball, sneakers, blah, blah, blah.
So
But we had no access
Yeah.
to it.
Jordans were huge. What? But you couldn't get shipping or just the
Yeah.
money, access to money and
Yeah,
shipping.
both, all of that. It's
Yeah.
we were sanctioned for many years from everyone in South Africa, so it was a bit hard to get.
Yeah.
Anything.
So you were really in kind of what we would say a struggle, right?
I mean, you didn't know it was a struggle until you came out. You're like, oh fuck, yeah.
But
that
you
was
started
it.
Spin, the Spin agency, your
In
own
London.
agency in London.
In London, yeah.
So you moved from South Africa,
Moved from South Africa.
and then you set up an agency.
So I moved from South Africa, and I didn't know a single soul. But I knew I wanted to be here because it was very hard to get magazines like The Face. So we'd get one or two where we could, and I just knew I needed to be here because I loved it. It was multicultural, and it was experimental, and all these kind of things. So I came over, and then I worked at Tony and Guy for 5 years,
Okay.
and then
So if I ever needed trim.
not as a hairdresser.
Oh.
Don't call Leila.
Yeah, don't call me for haircuts. And then while I was there, actually the internet started.
Yeah. That sounds so ridiculous.
I know, right? Exactly. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Oh,
They turned it on.
They
Yeah.
pressed it. Yeah, they
Mom,
switched. They
get
put a
off the
switch on. And so
that.
I was like, yeah, I just want to be able to. I knew something was happening.
Yeah.
And so I started before Spin. Oh God, this is how old I am. Like an online marketing company called Generation Net.
Okay.
Which, you know, there was no industry. There weren't no case study. There was just nothing.
Man. How ahead of time were you there?
But I used to read science fiction as a kid,
yeah,
right?
but how good is that?
But so I've been in this digital world for a long time when it started.
You've been at the intersection of the URL and the
yeah,
IRL.
literally URL and IRL.
This
So,
is it.
so I've always done actually sort of traditional and in real life and online stuff right experimentally right from the beginning, and
Yeah.
that's been super helpful for me to be able to do what I do today.
So what was Gen Net?
Generation Net.
Yeah.
And it was an online marketing company for the fashion industry.
For the internet.
Online.
And the
There was
internet
nothing.
had just been turned
Yeah,
on.
there was nothing. So
Yeah.
of course I'm going, oh, it's gonna be awesome.
That was so good.
there was
that
nothing.
You had the vision.
I had the vision because I read a science fiction book called Neuromancer by William Gibson when I was about 15, and
What's it called?
Neuromancer, not new romancer,
Like neuro, as
NEU,
in-
like
yeah, yeah.
neuro,
Neuro, yeah,
neuromancer.
human brain, yeah.
And it was science fiction, and people jacked their heads into computers and went
Sounds like the
across.
Matrix.
Yeah, but this is William Gibson, right?
Yeah,
so he
yeah.
came up with the word cyberspace, like he's a science fiction, and then it was in real life, and I was like,
Nice.
wow.
Nice.
And that was the one book I traveled with because I really loved that book so much. It was really funny.
It's books
Yeah.
that spark ideas. There were two
Absolutely.
books that I read that sparked the idea for this.
Really? Which was that?
Entrepreneur's Wisdom,
Yeah.
and the other one was The 4 Hour Work Week, which my goal was
very different to science fiction. These are
very
business
different.
books.
Business books.
Amazing.
But the point is, what I'm trying to make is that books can spark ideas.
Of course.
Because they change in your perspective and you're not just taking in Netflix.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you need... But science fiction books, I don't read fiction too much, but I have read a few fiction books and they spark your thought in a different way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've been reading since I can remember. I think it's the one thing I've done consistently my entire life, before bed and in the morning.
Yeah.
Every single day, and I read all the newspaper, and I'm like information.
It's quite hard in the digital world, I find, because
it is.
Digital is more attractive than a book sometimes.
Yeah. But I love it. It's just my way, and I've just always been that way.
It's surprising how much you can take from kind of print now. I think we kind of put it to the back of our minds and we kind of like overlook it because we have so much digital feed
stimulation.
It's more valuable print.
100%, man.
If I buy a magazine in a supermarket, I'll look at it and I'll engage with it a bit more than I just would an online article.
But I think interestingly with books,
do you know why though? Because you're in an online article, you're so used to just doing that.
Yeah.
Spinning up, swiping up, whatever.
And also you have to really, your brain is stimulated and you have to imagine what you're reading. So your brain's like, really sort of going all fire. Or if you're just looking at something, you're visually seeing it. Whereas if you read a book, you have to imagine it. And that's got to be positive.
Do you use print for your clients?
What do you mean?
Publications, so print advertising as part of your campaigns, or is it digital?
So it really depends on what they
So it is an option.
Yeah. For me, it's always about, here's your target audience.
Yeah.
This is the product or service. How do you get this to your audience in the way they want to receive it?
In the way they're going to connect.
In the way they want to receive it, not in the way that you think they want to receive it.
Yeah.
And that's why working with the community, working with the right people, means that you know which channels and which way that needs to happen for it to happen well.
Do you ever find that some of the brands that come to you don't actually know who their audience is?
Sure, absolutely.
And how do you help with that?
We dig deep into their history. We dig deep into, I guess, who they would like to be speaking to. We try and figure out, and sometimes we can, as you're saying, because we are not a specific type of company, we can go and very easily do focus groups to find out. Or we could do lots and lots of research, or, there's a multitude of ways that we can find out who their audience is, who they want their audience to be, and perhaps either we can shift what we're doing to get to them, or we can figure out who their audience needs to be.
Yeah. Okay.
So it really, really depends on the challenge of the brand. Challenge of the brand is, don't know who my audience is.
What's the biggest challenge then that a lot of brands are facing?
Relevance.
Relevance. Yeah, because I read that on your website as well, that just being relevant, culturally relevant
to their audience.
Yeah, and why do you think that is? Why are brands become less relevant?
Because they push their information out instead of pulling the consumers to them.
It's just regurgitating like imagery and everything.
Yeah, so they're going.
Yeah,
this is what we want. Really, this is what we want to say. Boom.
Yeah.
Instead of going, what is it that they want to hear?
Yeah.
What can my product or service do that's going to add value to them, that they want to embrace it instead of being pushed at them?
Yeah, and I think we're in an age of people and individuals. We're not going to use the word influencers, but people are connecting with these people because they're individuals. It's kind of the same reason that people watch reality TV, because they see normal-ish people that they can connect to. Yeah. Big brands don't have a lot of people. Faces, individuals that individuals like me can connect to.
But I think this is partly why Sole Supplier has done so well. I think because of you were just an average Joe, no one knew who you was, and then you came
average
out.
George.
Sorry, apologies. Yeah,
who's
average
Joe?
George.
Come on, Alex.
Get that guy.
Joe used to work here before. So people just related to you because you were just like this kind of like cheeky chappy who was
cheeky
just on
Nando's
Instagram.
for trainers.
Yeah. But although
Nando's, by the way.
do you know what though?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Although people may have described it as like cheeky Nando trainer boys, whatever it is.
Is that how it's described?
A couple back in the day did, yeah.
But it's relatable. It's relatable, and a lot of people will relate to it.
Yeah.
And you see that because the numbers grow, you get, the business gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's literally people buy into people.
People, yeah.
And not
people
product.
trust people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So is that hard to do when you've got... sorry, Alex, I did cut in there, but you're kind of leading off of what...
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say that because you notice now that, especially if you look at the sneaker industry, before you would have certain retailers that would have access to certain product. It's not so much the case now. Everyone pretty much has access to the same product. So I think this is the biggest challenge. Like, why would you shop at sneakers and stuff over Offspring or Size or JD? Like, I think the way that people shop now is they like to feel a part of something, especially the younger generation.
It's a great point.
So it's like,
absolutely,
it's almost like if you look at Offspring, what they've done, they say what you like about the Offspring community,
it's
and
worked so
massively. People feel like they're a part of something, and then you see these kind of side groups kind of, tail off and kind of create their own thing, and people now meet up to take pictures of their trainers, and they go for a coffee or they do this, and it has brought that, and that just goes to show that people are very much wanting to be a part of something.
Of course they are.
It's almost like acceptance, where social media has got so big, and like you say, normal people, they can relate to normal people on like Love Island or reality TV. It's the acceptance, and once you kind of find like-minded people that are into what you're into, and you realize that there is this huge, this massive community that's kind of not known. In school, if you turn around and someone says, "Oh yeah, I collect trainers," what? It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not football, it's not girls, it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just very different.
And it's interesting you say that, because I think a lot of the brands that we work with think that those communities are small, and I'm like, these communities are massive because of the internet. So they always go, "Oh, it's not mass." I'm like,
what communities in particular?
Any communities, whatever community they're trying to be part of.
Yeah, you think like stamp collectors.
Yeah, but it's humongous because people connect globally. You have an interest in sneakers or hip hop or grime or whatever. You will have that globally, and you will connect to each other. That's what it is. And actually the scale then becomes much, much bigger than brands just go, "Oh, in the UK we have this many." Actually, globally you have that many.
Yeah.
So, how do brands leverage that and not think about it small?
When you've got a brand, I don't know, I can't name a brand right now that's just completely faceless, but I don't want to either now. But
because you might want to be the face of that business.
No, well, but you see, so if we're agreeing this is quite an integral part of sort of breaking down the wall of a brand, you said you work with clients less on a long-term basis. You do, but it's more like one-off
ongoing projects.
So but if a client is that faceless, don't you kind of need to say, look, there's an ongoing thing here, there's a long-term thing that is you need to connect.
It is ongoing, but it's not, which we definitely, and this is again just learning from Spin, is not working on retainer all the time for like 5 or 10 years. At some point,
is that real?
Yeah.
5 years?
Well, it used to be. I don't know, but it's long, right? And at some point, everyone starts getting a little bit lackadaisical and a little bit comfortable. Yeah. And for me, I'm like, I just want to have a beginning, middle, end, and we can do 20 of those, but they have to be making sense and they have to be making impact every time, or else it just becomes this kind of weird grind of stuff that's okay, but not going to really change the game.
That puts you in a more vulnerable position financially, I guess, but it's less comfortable for both, which sparks more creativity.
Do you think that you're in a less comfortable position financially?
Well, psychologically, people have security when they have a retainer, which is why I imagine business owners have the retainers in place for a long period.
You're kind of relying on one person to get a job done, whereas if you've got a short-term retainer, then while that one person's doing that job, you then have time freed up to look for the best possible person placed for your next project.
And also, you just have to do good work.
That's it. That's what I mean.
You do good work and they will come.
It's great.
I suppose in a way, it protects you as a business.
You have to keep on challenging yourself, and that's always going to be positive for your business. It's very easy in a retainer to stop challenging yourself, and then what?
We hear this.
You know what I'm saying? So I would rather have smaller time projects, but actually have to continue going, what's new, what's next, what's new, what's next? Because that's going to keep the brand fresh. It's going to keep me stimulated
Such a good
and
point.
my team fresh.
Yeah.
And that's going to bring in more work, I think. Also so how come that feels much more secure actually than just waiting for your head to be chopped off?
Yeah, I suppose
from
the freelancer's perspective, is
it's the same.
They have to do a good job in order to secure the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It can't just be a case of, I've done this for 6 months. I'm blessed for the next 6 months.
Exactly. You've got to, and that will push everything forward.
It's funny, isn't it, that when people are driven by money, like traditionally the CEOs are like, we need retainers. 5 years. I didn't even know that was a thing. That is insane. But then when you flip it on its head, it's like, it's all about the best possible work.
Of course it is.
And then we can just remove everything else.
Exactly.
And they'll come back. The freelancers will do great.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So obviously the Sole Supplier's got, thousands of followers, and loads of them are very well skilled, and they've got amazing skills that they can offer. How do people get to working for you? How do people get into, what are you looking for?
So I generally, the thing is that I give as many people the opportunity as possible. So I will put out stuff looking for directors, writers, blah, 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 for whatever project it is. And I'm like, send us your stuff. And we will look at them and see if they're right for what we need to do. Yeah. And if they aren't, they are there in the filing system for the next. So for me, it's absolutely about my value to the community. How am I going to do that? I remember coming over here and not knowing a single soul, not knowing how to get anything. And if that's something that I can do for all this talent that's out there, I'm going to try, you know what I mean?
So essentially anybody can come and eat from your table as long as they're bringing more than
as long as you're good at what you're doing, as long as you are up to the standard, absolutely.
How do you...
Absolutely.
I think that's quite refreshing, because I don't think there are as many companies within an industry like this where, a lot of people try to develop careers in this industry purely because they love product. I love trainers, so I'd love to do this. And they don't see, for want of a better word, like the kind of bullshit that comes with it. Yeah. So
it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work. And it's like, I've seen a lot of people come through the door who feel entitled, actually, because they've either got big followers. I'm like,
what creatives?
And
I'm
like, that doesn't interest me. What can I see your last 3 things you've done? So, or can you show me something that's going to stop me from scrolling? What's going to stop my thumb? Because I'm so cynical and old.
Meeting and karaoke.
Yeah. Or you know what I mean? What's gonna stop me in my tracks?
So you're looking for creators rather than influencers.
Exactly to the point.
I know we've discussed this, but just to be clear, your first priority is, okay, you got 100,000 followers, but what's your content saying?
Yeah. Not only that, who are you
saying?
What are you saying?
Yeah, what's your personality?
What are you saying?
It's got to be your personality as well. Like your Instagram feed can't just be.
It's not everything. We know what that is.
Of trainers
exactly.
that you've taken.
Exactly.
As
But
great
like
as
you
they
said
might
before,
be,
it's a bonus. If they've got a good engaged following, it's a bonus.
It's a bonus, but it's not the reason why.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that would not be the reason why I would take them on.
That's it.
Think about how many people's photography is used within this industry and they're not credited for.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
And you wouldn't know who they are or who took that shot unless you followed that person religiously. For example, Morgan has a very particular style of photography, yeah? So anyone that follows him can spot one of his pictures usually.
I really rate that, because I find that so difficult with photography.
Of
course.
He
does have that.
But imagine like how many kind of images and assets are out there that I just haven't been tagged, or the person hasn't been credited.
100%.
There's almost like white labeling.
Yeah, sure.
And then unless they repost it, you'd never know. So
it's tough. And listen, it's tough out there. There's a lot of good and amazing talent, and so it's hard. I think if people want to really sort of rise to the top, they have to bring something new and different and original. Not only to me, just generally. You know what I mean? Because I feel like people do go, "Oh, I'm going to create that, puddle picture."
Yeah.
Well done.
Shout out the puddle pictures.
Well done. But it's more like, what could be something that's going to stop not only me, but whoever is making those decisions in those big brands, going to stop them in their tracks.
What do you think about informal content? And what I mean by that is, we find some of the best content is stuff that we could have just shot on an iPhone real quick.
Fine.
Authentic.
Great.
It hits hard. It gets the best views,
Great.
engagement,
it's in the moment,
comments.
though, isn't it?
It's in the moment. How does this work with brands right now? Because a lot of brands have this idea of it needs overstyle, premium, production, directors,
It really depends on the brand and who they're trying to talk to. As I was trying to say, if your audience appreciates whatever style, that's how you deliver it to them.
Got it.
It's so weird that you said that.
That's how you deliver it to them. It's what your audience, or who you're trying to talk to, who you're trying to represent, is going to receive your information. It's literally as simple as that.
So the first part of all of your assessment is like, let's do the audience analysis.
Absolutely.
Very, very clearly.
Very clear.
That's the most important part.
But not on age, on mindset.
Yeah.
So I'm very much about, because I am 45.
How do you assess mindset
mindset is interest and passion areas and territories. For me, it's not. I'm 45. I probably have a similar mindset too, and I've known some kids who are 22 who have an older mindset than me, right? So for me, it's like, this is the brand, project, whatever. Who are the people we're trying to talk to? So for instance, with this Land Rover job we're working on called The Out, where we are, it's a car rental service for city people, right? Who don't want to own a car in the city, but want to access one when they go away for the weekend. It's actually brilliant. The mindset is someone who wants to go out of the city and adventure. Now that could be 25-year-old or it could be a 71-year-old, but there's an adventure mindset within that person who wants to be doing that, as opposed to someone who wants to say go in another type of car. It's a Land Rover, so we've got to tap into that. Same with sneakers. There are specific people, like a Vans wearer is different to a Nike wearer, is different to an Adidas. So that's the mindset. It's not really a age.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
And that's what
it's not an age, it's not a gender.
It's not an age, not a gender.
It's not. Yeah.
Stan Smith was never a gender. Superstar has never been a gender, and it's never been an age. So I've always worked in a very similar way.
Yeah, I think I've thought.
And ZX Flux as well, non-gender.
Yeah, I've been a bit caught in that trap.
Yeah,
of sometimes previously asking people, okay, so who are you trying to target?
Yeah.
What age?
Yeah.
What gender?
Yeah.
Like, is this? But we were talking recently about a bag that we're going to be launching as merchandise, and Cash was like, well, we market it to male, female. The age is not too important. It's like, well,
and it's hard
you can be narrow-minded with that.
Well, I don't know if you can be narrow-minded. I think the reason why people do that is because they go, okay, if it's an age, it's going to be this channel. If it's a gender, it's going to be this channel, or it might be whatever. I think
that's
it's
the
more
priority audience.
And I guess it's more like, that's why it's really important to think about the campaign or the whatever it is overall, as opposed to just one thing. Because I think if you do that, there is you're limiting yourself to who you're trying to talk to.
Yeah.
And actually, it's about,
you don't want to alienate.
You don't want to alienate people, and you shouldn't really. I mean, so many times, like even with Diageo working with we did this campaign around female headliners at festivals. So Smirnoff is vodka. That was one of the brands. I worked across the portfolio at Diageo. So Guinness, Tanqueray, blah, blah, blah. Smirnoff, we really wanted to sort of talk about inclusivity in music, electronic music, which is very male orientated, the DJs, right? So we did this piece of research and we found out that only 17% of headliners in global festivals are female.
Right.
17%. So we were like, okay, if we are vodka that, makes sense in festivals, it mixes with anything, inclusive brand. What can we do as a brand to try and impact that positively? So we started this campaign called 2 Times Women's Headliners. And that's something that we did, and it was a 3-year campaign. I think they're still doing it now. Nice. This is before I left Diageo, to go, how do we, without token, try and double the amount of female headliners around the world? So we worked with the partners, Spotify, Live Nation, all our partners we pulled in. We were like, what are you going to do to be able to help us do this?
But why was that important for a vodka brand? Because
it's we're trying to sell product, as we all are.
More females drink vodka?
It's just about the fact that this brand is supposed to be an inclusive brand.
Okay.
So that was the point. The point is it wants to be an inclusive brand.
And that would resonate with that mindset.
It resonate with that mindset, and actually will add impact and will actually add value to the world. That's not a bad thing for a vodka.
Huge thing, yeah, it's important.
It's important.
Yeah.
There's definitely things that are important that can be done and should be done by brands because they've got the weight and finances to do it and make impact. That's positive.
Yeah. Personally, something I'm doing a lot more of now.
Yeah, good.
Just helping people, educating people.
That's it.
Giving them skills in business.
Just positive impact.
Motivation.
Yeah, positive
things
impact.
that I've done. Exactly. Because we've got a responsibility.
Exactly.
We educate people on shoes. That's consumerism. But we also can educate people on stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
On that note, I wanted to ask you, what would you tell people that are trying to get into this industry? What's your advice to them? As a creative, as someone trying to start a company, what would it be?
So I actually think, and I don't know if this is just me, I was always looking for, and still am, always looking for people to rise to the top because there's so much content out there, right? I mean, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. This idea of originality, I feel like that's something that people need to just lift up higher because everyone's looking. So whereas before it was quite closed off, we can see. Just do some awesome work. We can see. We're looking.
Is it not hard to be original with less budget when you're starting out?
Oh no, that's that for me.
Because people would think that.
Yeah, but that for me, to your point, something could be compelling that's created on an iPhone and interesting than something that's got millions of pounds behind it that is overproduced.
So how does someone be compelling? You know, what do they?
I mean, that's the creative bit, right?
Yeah.
So there's no point calling yourself a creator or creative if you're not doing that. And there's, and that's why, as with any industry, the best will rise. They will rise because
you've got to live and believe your passion and what you're what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Being a creative and a creator is tough.
Yeah.
This is not an easy thing, and people like influence just put it next to their name.
You got to wake up and breathe it. You've got to go to sleep at night and think it.
It's got to come from within, hasn't it?
It does.
It's like when you have that light bulb moment. It will happen. And it happen. How often does it happen to you? Like when, for example, you might be trying to come up with this new piece of content or whatever.
Then you're walking down the road home.
Exactly.
That's it. In the shower.
Yeah.
Literally, you're like, oh, got it.
Literally, as we've been, and it's so weird you said that because as we've been having this conversation, as soon as we finish recording, I've got 5 things to write down straight away.
Really?
The content that's come to mind. During this.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad we inspired you.
You influenced me.
You did a good job there,
You
George.
influenced me, man.
But no, it is tough. It's not easy. It's not easy. And the thing is, I guess some people just don't have it.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
It's not for everyone.
Exactly. It's not for everyone. And people shouldn't feel like a failure. There is so many different opportunities.
Just keep trying then.
Yeah, but just find what's interesting to you. Like the one skill I do have is understanding what resonates. Now, I can take that in many different ways. I've decided to put it in what I do. But that's my skill. I can't draw. I'm not a photographer.
Yeah.
But I know what resonates and I can pull it in.
Perceptive, good people reader.
So yeah, this kind of thing.
Global head of resonation.
Yes, that's a good title.
Yeah. Head of
Head of resonation. I don't know.
Head of global resonation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Global resonator. Yeah, because there's a lot of people that want to get into this industry, footwear, fashion.
Why they need to also, and they all need to also think about what their motivation is to enter.
Yeah.
Is it to get free shit?
Yeah.
That's
a lot of
probably
people,
not the right motivation to get into something.
It for product, like you said. Yeah.
How do you feel about the whole seeding aspect of stuff?
I don't mind seeding.
Because you guys do seeding as well on behalf of brands, right?
Yeah, we do seeding.
It's a funny word.
But that has to be for people who really want that particular, like Morgan. I'm not going to send him something he doesn't like.
And what is seeding for people listening that don't know?
Sending shoes to people because they like them, they love them.
Yeah, or sending vodka if it's a vodka company.
Or they resonate with the shoe.
With the shoe. So for instance, with Captain Morgan last year, a couple of years ago when I was at Diageo, we did there was only one Captain Morgan when Wes Morgan won. So I created, so good.
Is that you?
Yeah, so we created the bottles with Wes Morgan on the bottle.
Incredible, man.
And then we sent it out to like people that I knew were like Mr. Jam and his wife. They are huge Leicester fans. So since so it's very, very choiceful about who we seeded that.
So essentially, Leicester City won the Premiership, and it was
the underdogs, like they.
And it was like it should never have happened. It was
And of course,
and the captain was called
Wes Morgan.
What? So you sent him a captain?
So we created a campaign called "There's Only One Captain Morgan," and it was Wes Morgan.
That's it. Yeah, that's clever. Yeah. Good opportunity. The stars aligned. Yeah, it was a really, really fun project. But we had to we did it within 2 weeks. Because we saw the points.
It was literally, it wasn't clear cut. It wasn't clear.
So we were like, shit, this thing is coming, and we're like, oh god, what are we gonna do? And
he's literally him standing in his like Leicester City kit, holding a bottle of Captain Morgan.
And but we changed Captain Morgan to his face.
Nice.
And we
on the actual
bottle. On the bottle.
It was brilliant. So it was like on the shoulders.
But how much do you send? So I was going to ask, how much Captain Morgan would you send to someone?
So I only created like 50 of those bottles, and I sent them out to people who love it.
Same
as the All Gone book and the All Gone Johnny Walker that we did in camo with for the 10-year anniversary. So again, only 20 of those bottles.
How do you measure the success of the Captain Morgan campaign?
I mean, it was huge.
It's not. But I suppose it's just how much it's talked about, isn't it? It's one of those things.
But does that have lasting benefit for the brand?
For the brand, absolutely, because the brand, their entire sort of mission is fun.
Yeah.
So make rum fun.
Resonate with people. Yeah.
Make it resonate. Make it interesting.
Yeah.
You know, alcohol's a hard one.
That's the go-to drink.
Yeah. So then it's kind of like, okay, so how do we continue this tone of voice and be this people? Because it was so well received.
Well, yeah, even now they're advertising now. Have you not seen the advert where they got the guy dressed as Captain Morgan opens his front door and it's just a different version of a captain. That might be a sailor captain, or and then it answers all and it goes captain. And as soon as they're a captain, they can be let in.
So it's very, very much about understanding the tone of voice of the brand, what they're trying to do, what the target audience is, how they're going to receive it, and then figure out. And this is
what I've been saying along, man. Like the footwear industry has become too serious.
Yeah,
it needs to become a lot more fun. People need to start people need to start taking themselves less seriously, man.
Well, I mean, in the back in the days,
it never used to be like this.
Yeah, early sort of this sort of culture was very much about optimism. It was very colourful and very sort of, you know, and it was friendly and it was great. And it was beautiful. Not saying that it isn't now. It's evolved into something else.
You see, like these mad outfits that are colourful, and everyone posts a picture and like this. Like there's some mad like pose that goes with it.
What is it? Okay.
Get still at that.
You're gonna learn something here. Learn something.
That can go on a Sole Supplier calendar. Isn't it?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. The Adidas event we just went to in Paris was awesome. It was a great event, but the people that were there at that event were too bothered about their. This is my interpretation. Yeah. I'm quite like, I'll talk to people in a party if I'm there, but these guys are so bothered about what they look like that to break that ice of talking to someone that they don't know is too impossible. Dangerous to them for their image.
Yeah, but that's what the fashion industry's kind of become now, isn't it?
And it's like it makes the atmosphere sometimes a little bit
course.
difficult.
And it's very cliquey.
Very cliquey.
And
it's like, that's not a party. A party is all inclusive. It's a vibe. People talk to each other. I don't know what it got like when it got a lot later because I left. But you tell me.
Did you stay later?
But
Alex is right in there.
He's right in there.
No. Not at all.
Cash is laughing, he knows.
Cash had a bit of a sore head the next day.
Oh, did he? Did you have fun there, Cash? Yeah.
It didn't change too much. Like, there's that video going around at the moment, isn't there, of the girl who's like dancing, and all of a sudden like her dress just shoots up, and it's like just her G-string. And then I think it was like reposted.
Is this at the same party, mate? Or is this much later? Yeah.
No. Like, this is the same party, man. This is not a different place, I promise. I was actually there.
I'm like, whoa.
So this happens, and then someone reposted it, and they tagged like Adidas Originals and Adidas Paris or whatever, Adidas France, and was like, oh, this was too saucy for the kind of like actual content to go out. But it's quite a lot light-hearted and funny. And when you see the person, you would have definitely spotted who they were.
Really?
100%. Like you probably would have made that comment about them saying, "Oh, these people are taking themselves too seriously."
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely did change, man. It was. I think obviously you have to remember that it wasn't an event in London or event in the UK. So when we've gone there, it's kind of a different vibe, and people know each other already. And
this is true.
I think some people are quite not standoffish on purpose, but unless you know someone that's kind of like introducing you to them people, then not everyone's that confident to have that conversation.
This is true, yeah. And maybe speaking to Cash after, he said about a book called How to Work the Room. How to Work a Room.
Been reading that book, have you, Cash? How's it going?
But we always
Cash was working the bar, that's exactly.
About it, man. How to Work the Room, amazing.
We always talk about business books, self-development books, because I love all that sort of stuff. Sure. And he was saying, you know, the trick is to act like it's your party. So if it was your party, you'd be walking around like, oh, how you doing? What's going on? Like, maybe that's...
Did you do that,
in the room with a smile?
No.
But what do you think? Like, what are you like at a party?
Ain't you party like an S-Club party?
Yeah.
I don't know, actually.
Do you work the room? Because networking's a big thing. Right?
Are you going to put parties on a different platform?
I mean, I've done a lot of parties.
Yeah.
I've been the one sort of in the background beavering away most of the time.
Don't know what that means, but it's a South African term.
I think it's an English term, actually.
Beavering away?
Yeah. Working in the background.
Okay,
it's an H thing, maybe.
Got it.
So, I've put on quite a few parties, and I'm always the one kind of running around trying to see if the lights are working and horrible things.
Yeah, your mind's on other things.
On other things.
Yeah.
But if I do go to a party, I don't know. I kind of keep to myself a bit, actually. I don't go around going,
I've been so
hi,
standoffish,
hello.
Leila, man.
Not standoffish.
How dare you? I mean, in your clique over there in the corner. Who do you think you are?
Exactly. No, I mean, I guess it's different. You're right. At some places you know more people, other places you don't. I'm just I don't really go out and party that much anymore. So
same.
I mean, it's a whole nother topic about organising events.
Yeah.
And that's something that you guys do, I imagine.
Yeah.
There's
I really
a lot
enjoy
of
that.
elements to a good event, and we touched on one of them there, didn't we? Like the vibe. Can you control a vibe with an event before it goes on?
It depends what you're trying to get from the event.
Yeah.
It depends what kind of vibe you're trying to set.
Because like every event now, every brand event, they've got a feature artist, they've got someone, they've got the headlines.
The formula, you mean?
The formula. The event formula.
The event formula. I do feel like that needs to change.
So this comes
That's
back
probably
to
why I don't go out anymore. I'm just like,
this comes back to
Leila, we should talk about this after, man, because I've said this before.
Yeah, it's originality again, isn't it?
It's back to the same story. I mean, again, if I see another 90s event, literally, with a VHS in the corner, I'm like, wow, it feels like it's the same thing over and over again. It's weird. It's weird. I don't understand.
You know the whole the 90s TVs with the big back and the gaming. Yeah, I saw that happen. I think it was at the Nike Roundel event is the first time I saw it, and then I saw it rolled out for like 7 different.
I love that rolled
campaigns.
Out.
It literally was literally 7 different campaigns I went to. Like one was in-store installation, and for all different brands. I was thinking, man,
all different brands. That's the interesting bit. Yeah,
just pick something else.
Yeah.
How many old TVs are you going to use?
And there's so many different
classic,
stories. There's so many stories. You know what I mean? That I do feel like there should be a bit around what's right for the brand. How does it not look like anyone else's? It does feel pretty formulaic.
I wanted to ask your opinion on the Puma Traphouse event. Do you know about
that? I did a big statement on that.
Oh, okay.
It was
I
huge.
remember it.
Yeah, I did a big statement.
I had my opinion, which was initially, well, they messed up. Like, why did they do that? And then it was it a PR stunt in itself to generate press, which they knew could be bad, but maybe it wasn't that well thought out?
I don't think it was a PR stunt.
To generate bad press, which would be in turn good for the brand, which would get people looking.
I think it was people who...
They just didn't know what...
I think it was a bit of culture vulture.
Yeah,
I think people saw something that was being glorifying something that wasn't... It's not cool, but...
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Just begging it,
but then the flip side is it worked fantastically for Puma. Yeah, the people say there's no such thing as bad press. And it's funny because I mentioned this the other day at Sneakerness. And it's like... They had like a week or 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks of like they were in the paper and like, oh, it's a disgrace. But then they went on to have the most successful 18 months they've had in the last 10 years. This is
what I'm saying. This is what we've seen. What do you think?
So for me, I mean, I know the guys behind Urban Nerds really, really well. I really rate them.
I know those guys as well. Yeah, I really
sound solid.
Really good.
Known them for years and years and years. Was surprised by that idea, but I do think, and I've seen how this has happened, an idea that starts off as something.
Yeah.
I can see where that thought came from, to your point of like, is relevant at the moment, blah, 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 what have you. But then I think it maybe went too far down the line without any checks. But then the problem is where it gets approved. It will have to go through layers and layers of approval in these big companies. Yeah. The problem is identification by the people making the decisions of what's going to be right or not on street level.
Well, it's never them that's held accountable though, is it? It's Puma.
But that's
Puma. They've done wrong. But who signed off on that?
But besides that, it's this idea of like, so a lot of agencies, companies, whatever, will go to the brand and go, here's 3 ideas. If the person making the decision, like we talked about before internally, is not connected to what's happening, how can they make the decision on what's going to be right for the community?
Yeah.
And that's potentially what happened. Who knows what happened, right?
Well, I know the guys like you said at Urban Nerds too, right? And I can see I can't see them putting it on in that way. But what I can see happening is them going to Puma and the guys at Puma coming back and going, well, it needs to be more like this.
Yeah.
I like that idea, but let's make it a bit more like this.
In fairness, their invitations are pretty cool.
Yeah, and the concept was cool, but there was just a few things that were pushing it. Like you got the trap phone sent through to you.
Yeah, but
I thought that was quite cool, to be fair.
But I think, though, you've got to...
quite clever.
Yeah.
No, but I think from a brand point of view and from, the guy's point of view, at the time, the conversation around knife crime and that part of it was so loud that it actually just felt disrespectful.
Yeah, it was wrong time,
for me,
wrong
that's
place.
more what the issue was, is that actually it's important. Brands need to be responsible. Be responsible. You don't have to be boring.
Yeah.
You don't have to be pushing things forward, but you have to be responsible.
Got it.
That's my personal thing as well. You can be authentic, but without being traditional. That's never what it's about. But responsibility is key.
Yeah, it's a great place to end, I think.
Just say it's a really good way to see out the end of the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
Be responsible, children.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how long we got? How long we run?
We've been going for an hour 20.
Really?
Wow.
Jesus.
God,
That is
doesn't
a long
feel
one.
like
That is a good one.
This is the longest podcast yet.
Yeah.
Oh God, people
that's
want to
a
listen to the
compliment to you.
longest podcast.
No.
Call it that, the longest podcast ever.
Cash was loving it. It was long because we've got so much good stuff we talked about.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
I think
really
what we do
was.
is we'll have to
That
get
was
you
really
back
fun.
on at a time that you've got like a
Something happening.
like a particular project,
Yeah.
project
Project.
Project?
project that going
That's
on
relevant.
that might be
Yeah.
Do you feel
relevant
like
for
we
the sneaker
covered off a
industry.
lot there?
I do actually, and it was a great conversation actually. I learned a lot.
I learned a lot. I've got some
Yeah.
ideas right now. Yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to come away energized and
of
feeling
course.
like,
You should give away 5 mugs, but you should do it to people who can send you the most creative concept.
What did they want from you?
Who?
Because you no. If you, as you're saying, your audience. Now
what a
your,
question. What
your-
do they want from you?
What do they want from you?
Don't know.
Your audience is, as you said, creators who want to get into.
Yeah, creatives and people
Very
that like
easy for you
and-
with your weight
Your
to go
platform.
to go to brands and go, we're gonna source these people for you to do stuff with.
Yeah,
Very easy.
yeah.
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 Cash is like, yes, but
Yeah.
that's exactly your added value to the community.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the sort of
That's absolutely what you should be doing.
line of what we have kind of been doing and are doing more of.
Good.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said about the brand partnership stuff.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
It's about focusing on the main egg in the basket, which is always the content and the information. And now it's more like, okay, we got more resource, we got more time. Can we work with brands to create more cool stuff for them?
But be careful that you're not, because a lot of people do this, right? They have their publication and or platform and or blah, and then they tap an agency onto the side for brand partnerships. Very easy for that also to become a tap on that kind of feels and looks the same as everything else. Not saying that you're going to do that.
Yeah,
or that
got
you're
it.
doing
Yeah,
that.
we've seen it ourselves.
But and it's very easy to do that. But I think you also have the responsibility to push the culture forward in a way.
We need to talk more. There's a few things we need to talk about outside of this. Yeah. It's been good having you on, Leila. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for spending the evening
Cheers.
with us.
Thanks.